Hello, everyone, and welcome to the CX channel, where customer experience professionals converge. I'm Erik Brooks, and I'm excited to host our second podcast today. If you happen to catch our first one, great. If this is your first time, we're happy to have you. I'm Erik Brooks, and with me I've got Emil Sankov, Cristiani Oliveira, and also a special CX expert with us today, Jill Spencer in the UK. Jill, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Yes, so I'm Jill Spencer. I'm now Director of Business Intelligence at ProInsight, and I've been working in the industry agency side for 24 years. And before that, I was client side for 8 or 9 years, which has given me a really unique perspective, I think, into the industry. And I guess I'd like to say what's probably made me successful, certainly in the eyes of my competitors, I think in the UK, is the fact that I try and focus heavily on return on investment, as well as linking employee experience with a lot of the work I do. So I'm excited to share some of that information with you a little bit later on.
You know, Jill, that you mentioned something that's really quite fascinating, is that key connection to return on investment. A lot of people, measure customer experience and understand as a business owner that they need to improve the customer experience in their organization to help retain customers and so forth. But you've actually done studies and presentations that show actual direct correlations with very specific objective items and how those actually boost sales and revenue and customer retention and those sort of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I would say that the majority of my clients come to me either because they want to make more money or they want to lose less money. And that pretty much harnesses the majority of the work I do. I think what's interesting from my point of view is I really need to develop a high level of trust with my clients so that they're prepared to share particularly sales information, which is absolutely crucial in terms of, really making sure it's quite clear what the projects I work on have brought to the table in terms of revenue gains or reduction in losses.
That's really cool stuff. I remember watching one of your presentations a couple of years back, and it was really something. But well, I'm sure we'll talk more about that. Possibly have you on another time on the CX Channel podcast here to give us some more information about that. Maybe walk through some of those items too. That would be fantastic. Well, so as part of the CX channel here, one of the things that we do on this podcast is we go through an industry, and we actually do a dive into that industry with respect to the customer experience. And so we actually do an industry study. And today we're going to jump into pubs, taverns, and alehouses. They're kind of all three the same thing, but basically a place where you go and you sit down maybe with friends and you have some drinks or order some food and hang out and have a nice good time together. And so we've got an industry study here for those establishments that we're going to dive into. And the results are actually very, very interesting. So to talk a little bit about the first industry study that we're diving into for these pubs, the taverns, the alehouses, and we'll call them just pubs generally. We've got a sample size of over 16,000 pubs that we've actually looked at worldwide. And what we've done is actually poll the online customer reviews and ratings for all of those pubs. And we've taken those and we're going to look at the results here. What we've done is we've actually taken those online reviews and ratings, and we've not only polled the actual star ratings, so like was it a 4-star review, 5-star review, and so on, but we've taken the actual comments and run those through what's called aspect-based sentiment analysis. We're not going to get into the details of exactly what that is at this point. You can read more about that on our blog or in our magazine that we'll be launching here. We'll talk more about that later. But the point is that we took these reviews and we pulled apart the different components that people are talking about. So we looked at the establishment, the parking, the ordering process, whether people liked the food or the drinks, and then we took all of that and we mapped those reviews and the sentiment against the customer journey map. And you can actually see, and we'll walk through here in a second, what these people thought across the entire world with these 16,000 different, over 16,000 pubs, and see what they thought about the pub industry as a whole, and also the areas where they were very pleased or where they were unhappy, and everything in between. So we'll have a look at all of that here in just a second. So we've got, out of those over 16,000 locations, we looked at over 300,000 reviews, and almost 70% of those had actual comments tied to them. So there's some really useful information there. Now we can go through each of these slides here. If you're watching on video, you can see the presentation itself with respect to this industry study. And Emil, do you want to walk through these initial components?
Absolutely. Welcome. And just to continue the introduction, what we have prepared for today is introduction, sample, star ratings, critical review response time. Then we're going to move on to the marketing mix, customer journey. Then we're going to talk about creating a starter voice of the customer survey. And then we're going to meet the experts and talk about the industry from the point of view of the experts. So the objectives for the industry study were to analyze and understand the impact and role of digital feedback. And very briefly, the objectives that we said were to evaluate the influence of digital feedback, assess critical review response time, examine the impact of the marketing mix on the customer experiences, map the customer journey, and highlight the opportunities for improvement. Which takes us to the industry sample and the composition. The sample that we created for the industry study is 16,682 locations. These are 16,000 pubs out of a universe of more than 100,000 establishments. We were targeting for a confidence level of 99.99 with a margin of error of 1.50%. And as you can see, our sample geographic structure is separated into three primary zones: the Americas, APAC, Asia Pacific, and the EMEA, Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Each zone is further broken down into specific regions, such as the ones visualized here. The composition of the sample indicates an abundance of pubs in certain regions, like EMEA and North America, whereas others, like the Middle East, have very few, for obvious reasons. Moving on to the star ratings. The star ratings in online reviews are a system that allows customers to evaluate a product, service, or business on a scale from 1 to 5. And each star represents the level of satisfaction, with 1 star being the lowest, very dissatisfied, and 5 stars being the highest, very satisfied. As we can see here, the distribution of the star ratings in the pubs micro industry shows minimal regional variations, indicating a trend of consistency across the various geographic areas that we have examined. Although the APAC region tends to score slightly on the lower side, but not significantly. Then the critical review response time KPI measures how quickly a business responds to critical reviews, those with a rating of 1 and 2 stars. And this is a very important key KPI with regards to managing the customer experience, as it reflects the business dedication to addressing customer complaints and issues promptly. As we can see here, responding promptly to negative reviews can significantly influence the customer retention. And as we can see here, only 8.7% of the critical reviews appear to be responded to in a timely fashion, which obviously offers a great opportunity for improvement.
That's huge. I wonder if that's going to be something that we see throughout, all of the industries that we study. They're like 9%, under 9% of these really horrible reviews are responded to quickly.
Yeah, they both say that it is always an opportunity to improve, but customers look at this and they wonder, why should I care to give my feedback at all?
Well, I second Erik's opinion. I was also, when I saw these results, I was surprised and shocked to some extent, but it is really, I'm really looking forward to the next industry study to see if this is something specific to this micro industry, or is it a trend which will persist. So we'll know next month. In the meanwhile, just to explain the bands that we are using here. So the excellent or the green is responses delivered within 24 hours. Then the fair band is responses delivered within 72 hours. Anything above 72 hours is critical, and obviously not responded is not responded. And unfortunately, that is the overall prevalent majority here. Now, if we take this one step further and break it down between reviews with comments and rating only reviews, we see that the businesses are more likely to respond to reviews that have comments versus reviews that only have the star ratings, which to some extent is self-evident and easy to explain. But if we take it a step further, we can see that even when focusing only on the reviews with comments, the critical review response time remains consistently low and at critical levels across all regions. So there is very little difference between the regions here, which obviously again points us to major opportunities for improvements as far as how online reviews are being handled. So with that, I'm going to conclude the descriptive review of the online reviews and ratings. So we did cover the overall star ratings, the sample, and the critical review response time. And now we're going to move on to the marketing mix. So we're drilling down into the really what makes this industry. Businesses face challenges in aligning their marketing mix to the complex customer paths across multiple channels, and this is what makes understanding the marketing mix very important. And that is why we decided to drill down into understanding the marketing mix into great level of detail. So the first topic that we're going to dive into is the marketing mix elements. What do customers talk or care about? And I'm going to explain in a few minutes how we created this analysis, but just as an introduction to the marketing mix analysis, what you can see is that we are utilizing a 7P marketing mix, which is an extension of the traditional version of the 4P marketing mix, which is product, place, price, promotion. So here we are adding people, process, and physical evidence. This model provides a more comprehensive framework, we think, for businesses to evaluate and improve their marketing strategies, because it is a framework which is much better fitted for the service industries. And in our opinion, it is very fitting to any industry these days, being the industries are becoming more and more service oriented. So what we can see here is that looking at the 7 Ps, product, place, and people are particularly influential topics that customers talk about, accounting for over 85% of all examined aspects. And when I say aspects, what we did here was aspect-based sentiment analysis. So this industry study, as I mentioned earlier, covers more than 16,000 places. But from a standpoint of the reviews that we analyzed, the number is more than 300,000 reviews. And out of these 300,000 reviews, more than 200,000 reviews were reviews with comments. So we took the comments and we performed what we call aspect-based sentiment analysis. So we took all the aspects, anything that the customers talk about, and we measured the sentiment for each individual aspect. And we're going to talk about the methodology in more detail in the magazine we're going to issue next week, which is going to cover the industry study in more depth. But the result, in short, what you're seeing here is the aggregation of the different aspects of what customers talk about along the elements of the marketing mix, of the 7P marketing mix. So this is what we're seeing here. The online reviews aggregated across the different marketing mix elements. Now, if we take it a step further and break down each marketing mix element into its features, we see that while product, place, and people are key topics frequently discussed by customers, the significance of food quality, ambience, and customer service within these three elements of the marketing mix is especially pronounced. So there is a top feature in each of the top three marketing mix elements, which has significant prevalence in the sense of which details customers do prioritize. So again, this is food quality, ambience, and customer service. And we can see this by the percentage.
I don't think there's any major surprises there. I mean, when you go to a pub, those probably are the three most important things people tend to care about.
It is not a surprise, Erik, but what is surprising to me is how prevalent these three features are. This is clearly on the top of customers' minds. With regards
And the
to
weight as well, right? Because the place and people and product, they have almost the same weight. And if you compare with the price, for example, price has almost no importance at all compared to the other aspects.
Surprisingly, yes, people do tend to forgo price as an item of importance compared to the significance that we see in the food quality, ambience, and the customer service.
Kind of makes sense. If I want just a beer at home, I can have one. But when I go to a pub, that ambiance is a key component, and you'd like to be taken care of with good customer service.
And you see this backed by numbers from more than 300,000 customer reviews. So it is proven by the numbers. Okay, so let's take it a step further and dive into the marketing mix experiences. So as we can see, pubs are struggling with key elements of their marketing mix: product, people, and place, with a little bit over 20% of discussions in these areas being very negative, critically negative. And this is an indication for weakness and opportunities for improvement to boost the customer satisfaction and value. Just to explain what we see here, again, going back to the 7 P's of the marketing mix, this is the distribution of the sentiment. And we have rated the sentiment on a scale between -1 and 1. And excellent sentiment is between 0.5 and 1. Fair is between 0 and 0.5. We consider sentiment between -0.5 and 0 as needing attention, and critical is anything below 0.5. So this is really negative sentiment. And more than 20% of the discussions in the product, people, and place categories are critically negative. Again, this indicates substantial opportunities for improvement to enhance the customer satisfaction and improve the overall value delivery. So to sum it up, marketing mix is a very important component with regards to how we analyze online reviews and ratings. Businesses seem to face challenges in aligning their marketing mix to the complex customer paths across multiple channels. And with this analysis, we hope to provide a seemingly straightforward framework to analyzing and understanding the marketing mix and the link between the customer experience to the elements of the marketing mix.